Hey, what's up guys, Will here for GSM Arena. Infinix is a smartphone company that's relatively unknown in the West because they focus on certain markets in Africa and Asia. But their latest model, the Zero 8, is actually a pretty intriguing package. It brings a 90Hz refresh rate screen, fast charging, and a camera with a quad-Bayer Sony sensor, all for around $250. Is the Zero 8 enough to become a mainstream hit? Let's find out in our full review. The Infinix Zero 8 is a unique-looking device. Its camera module has a distinct diamond-shaped arrangement, and the back panel's two-tone geometric pattern adds more to the gemstone-like theme. The device is built of plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap. It seems sturdy and well put together. The glossy finish does attract plenty of smudges and fingerprints though. On the front, the Zero 8 has a 6.85-inch IPS LCD screen with a 1080p resolution, reasonably thin bezels, and a fast 90Hz refresh rate. There is a rather large punch hole cutout for the dual selfie cam. It's integrated into the UI quite well. There are even custom animations that turn the hole into more of a cool centerpiece. The screen itself is unfortunately not as great as you might expect. Scrolling the UI does look smoother than it would on a 60Hz panel, but there is noticeable ghosting and smearing, especially in text. It's even more apparent if there are moving lines on the screen, such as in this dedicated test. It's not just that though, the colors of the display aren't very accurate. Overall, they're on the bluish side, and there's no white point adjustment to remedy that. The max screen brightness is underwhelming for an LCD too. We measured 450 nits with a white pattern, hard to recommend for a good experience outdoors. So overall, it appears Infinix has used a cheaper LCD panel here, and the high refresh rate is pushing its limits. Moving on, the Infinix Zero 8 can be woken up and unlocked via the capacitive fingerprint reader located on the side. That doubles as the power button. It's very snappy and accurate. For audio, the Zero 8 has a single bottom firing loudspeaker. It isn't anything special. It scored only an average score in our loudness test, and the sound quality is about what you'd expect at this price point. There is a 3.5mm jack for connectivity with standard headphones, and with them plugged in, you have support for FM radio. Plus, storage is expandable on top of the 128 gigs built in. The Infinix Zero 8's UI is the overly customized XOS 7, based on Android 10. This is one of the heaviest and busiest skins we've encountered in a while. The phone comes with a crazy amount of applications and bloatware preloaded, for a variety of different functions. It's not immediately intuitive what they are for, and some of them are redundant. Plus, they require plenty of permissions in order to run, too, which could be a security concern. On top of that, there are advertisements all over the place, which hit you from the moment you set up the phone. At least you're able to uninstall the majority of these apps, and after that, the UI experience is much smoother. There are some proprietary features which are actually rather useful, like the side panel, which is a convenient spot for storing some shortcuts. Or the in-depth integration with WhatsApp. In settings, you'll find something called Social Turbo, which upgrades WhatsApp with features like a beauty filter, custom icons, and the ability to look at messages without marking them as read. And there is also a game bar, which is easily accessible from within a game. It gives you quick access to notification controls, screen recording, and other options, as well as shortcuts to WhatsApp and a web browser. At the heart of the Infinix Zero 8 is a Mediatek Helio G90T chipset. It's not as powerful as the popular Snapdragon 720G, but with the G90T, the Zero 8 is able to hold its own in benchmarks against many recent budget or lower mid-range phones. Don't expect a gaming powerhouse, but you can get a smooth experience out of most modern games, and you can achieve higher frame rates on games that support that. The UI works fine too, if you get past the bloated software experience. Powering the device is a decent-sized 4500 mAh battery, and battery life is awesome here. In our tests, the Zero 8 scored an endurance rating of 116 hours with the screen set to 90Hz. And turning the screen refresh rate down to 60 resulted in a higher score of 124 hours. It's not so often that you see fast charging on a budget phone, but the Zero 8 comes with a 33-watt charger in the box. With it, we were able to charge the phone from a dead battery to 65% in half an hour, which is really nice. Now on to the Zero 8's quad camera setup. There's a 64 megapixel quad Bayer main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra-wide cam which has autofocus and can take macro shots, and a couple of 2 megapixel cameras which might help with depth sensing. Shots from the main camera come out in 16 megapixels, and they're unimpressive. They're soft and a bit grainy, with rather narrow dynamic range, and the colors are more desaturated than what we like to see. Portraits are also taken with the main camera. These look rather nice, with above average edge detection and separation from the background. There is no telephoto cam here, so zooming is done digitally. These are cropped, upscaled, and some extra sharpening is applied. At 2 times, the results aren't too bad, as long as you don't look too closely. 8 megapixel photos from the ultra-wide cam look quite different from those of the main camera. They're still soft and grainy, but here you get a more vibrant color rendition. Dynamic range is more limited than on the main cam, but at least the distortion correction works well. Since it has autofocus, you can use the ultra-wide cam to take close-up macro shots. These are great, especially considering that much of the competition is using lower res sensors for these types of shots with fixed focus lenses. In low light, the Zero 8's main camera struggles a bit. These photos are usable, but softer and noisier than we would like. Dynamic range isn't great either, with bright areas tending to become blown out. There is a dedicated night mode for the main camera, and it really makes a noticeable difference. The exposure is brighter, and detail is recovered in the highlights. Plus, these shots are quite fast to process as you're shooting. The ultra-wide camera doesn't do a great job in low light. These photos come out soft, dark, and noisy. Plus, there is no night mode available here. Let's move on to selfies from the Infinix Zero 8's dual front-facing setup. The main camera is a 48 megapixel quad Bayer one, and its 12 megapixel shots look great, with lots of detail, and great colors and sharpness. These leave little to be desired, except that there is no autofocus. 8 megapixel shots from the ultra-wide selfie cam are nice in that they give you a wider field of view, which can come in handy. Quality-wise though, they fall behind the main selfie cam, especially when it comes to dynamic range. You can take selfie portraits with the main selfie camera, and these manage to look kind of convincing. Plus, the main selfie cam supports video recording in 4K at 30 FPS. Dynamic range isn't amazing, but it's quite impressive detail-wise. In contrast, 4K videos taken with the main rear camera are a bit underwhelming. The colors are dull looking, and the dynamic range is rather limited. Plus, the lack of stabilization in 4K video mode is quite noticeable. The rear ultra-wide camera can only shoot in up to 1080p. Its footage is noticeably softer and noisier than the main cams, but at least it has much more lively colors. There is electronic stabilization available for both the main and ultra-wide cameras. Though it caps the resolution at 1080p, it does do a decent job at smoothing things out. So that's the Infinix Zero 8. You get a unique looking design, a large high refresh rate display, solid performance, awesome battery life with fast charging, and a versatile camera setup both on the back and on the front, which is nice to see on a $250 phone. However, it's pretty clear that Infinix has cut some corners here, especially with the display. And the bloated and ad-filled software experience isn't great either, though it does help to lower the cost of the device. One of the biggest things to consider is that the Infinix Zero 8 isn't available globally. It's for specific markets in Africa and Asia. If you don't live there, importing this phone is probably not worth the hassle. But if the Zero 8 is available where you are, it does provide quite a bit of value for the money. Thanks for watching guys, stay safe and see you on the next one.